Massage, and you're watching Jamar84's YouTube channel. You better work.
Yes. What's going on YouTube?
Jamar.
What's going on YouTube?
Washington.
This is Jamar84 here once again. Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is your boy Jamar84 here once again, and we are here to review episode 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race. I actually, forgot to look and see what the name of the episode is. I forgot to look at my TV guide, but either way it goes, this is episode 5. It'll be in the title. This was actually one of my favorite episodes, when the combination of the episode and Untucked. Because now I wait until after I watch Untucked the next morning to do the full review of the whole episode, because I feel like a lot of stuff that's in Untucked ties in with the episode, and I want to mention it in the review. So there you have it. So this episode starts off with the mini challenge that was inspired by a fan who created a lot of the famous looks from season 6 out of paper. So they were challenged to create or recreate celebrity outfits out of paper. And so I believe, let's see, the teams were, well, actually, no. Everybody else did well. You know, they had to do like, you know, Lady Gaga's meat dress, Bjork with the swan around her neck, Jennifer Lopez and whatnot. Now, the ones that were interesting, and the Little Kim, the ones that were interesting was Ginger Minj had to have, like, y'all remember that Little Kim outfit to where she had like the one pink titty, and then like the pink outfit with the pink wig. So Ginger Minj was the model for that, and then of course, you know, RuPaul had to go over and do the little womp womp thing. Shout out to Jocelyn Fox. And let's see, Mrs. Kasha Davis and Katya had to do Bjork, which was she had like a little nude outfit on, but she had like the swan thing wrapped around her neck. And of course, Katya played it up. And then what made it more interesting was Mrs. Kasha Davis did like why can't I get her name out? Joan Rivers impersonation, like she was on Fashion Police. And quick side note, if you guys have not checked out the Battle of the Seasons review that I did with the live clips from the Snatch game where Sharon Needles did Joan Rivers, make sure you guys go check that out. It's on my channel. And it was such an amazing experience. I'm telling you guys, go check that video out if you're a fan of Drag Race. But anyway, well, actually, I'll link the video right here. There you go. So you guys click it and make it easier. But anyways, they made their things out of paper, and one that was Jennifer Lopez, which was supposed to be Mrs. Fame and Violet, it looked like a scarecrow. I know it's supposed to be made of paper, but they just looked like a freaking scarecrow. And it was just a mess. But long story short, Mrs. Kasha Davis and Katya won the mini challenge. So the main challenge is to host and do presentations at the first annual Despy Awards. Now, they still didn't explain what Despy means anywhere in the episode, or at least I may have missed it. Somebody tell me. But you know, since Katya and Mrs. Kasha Davis won, they're going to be hosting the awards. So, you know, they'll be the first to come out, introduce, you know, all the categories, and, you know, do the little shtick. And then the other contestants, or the other teams, when everybody was teamed in two, are supposed to present the award, throw some shade at the nominees and each other, and, you know, just have like the whole friendly award show banter that they have, usually reading like the teleprompter or something. So everybody's in the workroom, you know, trying to come up with jokes and, you know, this, that, and the fourth. And so you have Miss Fame and Violet paired together, and neither one of them are comedy queens. And so they're just kind of looking at each other like, we don't know what the fuck to say. And it was just interesting how you had people who are comedy queens paired up with some people who aren't kind of like Candy Ho and Ginger Minge, where we know Ginger Minge has had one-liners throughout the whole season thus far, and Candy Ho has really been invisible. I wonder why they're editing her like this. I think I kept mentioning this last week, and just over the course of the episodes, they're just really fading her into the background, almost like she was never there, which is terrible. But the part about this workroom, oh, sorry. The part about the workroom that was like the most intense was this epic stare down between Pearl and Rupaul. So Rupaul came over to Pearl and Max, who are teamed together, and Rupaul asked, well, you know, Max has a very large personality, and you don't have a large personality. So how are you going to overcome that? And Pearl was like, well, I think I actually have a great personality. And RuPaul's like, well, the reason I'm, you know, twisting your tits right now is because, you know, you were in the bottom last week, and I kind of want to light a fire up your ass. And Pearl was like, well, you kind of just told me that I have no personality, and, you know, that doesn't really uplift me or give me any courage. And so they literally lock in this, like, shady stare down. And then Pearl ups the ante and even goes as far as to say, like, is there something on my face? I was just like, bro, this is the man that can say yay or nay whether or not you go home or not, bitch, and you put to sit here and throw all this shade. I mean, I guess Pearl really felt disrespected, but I was like Max. I was just like, I feel so uncomfortable right now because this is highly awkward. And RuPaul is just like, look, you have to get it together and this, that, and the fourth and blah, blah, blah. He pretty much laid into Pearl. And after that, you know, Max was just like, okay. So, about our lines, do you want to do such and such and such? And Pearl was just like, you know what? I can't do this right now. I need a minute. And she walks out the workroom. And, you know, an unknown allotted time goes by. And we find out later in Untucked that Pearl was gone for like an hour. Okay? So she was out there. Max was just in the workroom like, okay, he was preparing. I'm going to prepare for a solo challenge because my teammate just went out the door. So he eventually does come back and they get their heads back in the game and whatnot. So everything's good. So now they have to do the rehearsals in front of Kathy Griffin. And Kathy Griffin came back. I thought she was going to be like a full-on guest judge, but I guess she just came back for to help them rehearse. Okay. And Kathy, in one group in particular, I think it was, yeah, the hosting group with Mrs. Kasha Davis and Katya, you know, they were giving their lines that they came up with, and Kathy Griffin was like, nope, we've used that line before. Oh, nope, everybody says that. Oh, you can't never open a line with that. And he was like, oh, it needs to be more gay. It's not gay enough. More gay. And I was just like, she was just tearing everybody down. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I guess she would know how to, I guess, what jokes would land and what people have heard before and what people, you know, won't want to hear. But it was just like, damn, like, they're not professionals like you are, you know? And one group that she did kind of fix was Jaden and Kennedy, who literally started every line that they wanted to with, oh, girl, girl, oh, girl, girl. And then it's like, bitch, don't use that word anymore. Stop it. Because it was kind of getting a little... So the Despy Awards comes, and... oh, by the way, was I the only one that thought it was kind of funny and secretly awkward how Miss Fame was just going on and on about chickens and how he said he used to groom the chicken, he used to get them all fabulous before they went into contests, and they would show the chicken's asshole to determine whether or not they're healthy or not. I was like, oh, okay. And he was just going on and on, like he has a tattoo of a chicken, he can make the chicken noises. And I'm just like, Miss Fame, you're so weird. We got, in combination with this show and Untucked, I think we got to have a more of a likable image of Miss Fame, in my opinion. She just got really weird, and I think that can appeal to a lot of people because everybody thought she was just kind of like uppity and unpersonable. But I think she's slowly, getting into that more likable stage. So let's see. Mrs. Kasha Davis and Katya come. They open up the show, and surprisingly, Mrs. Kasha Davis didn't land as many punchlines and didn't have the type of energy that we would have expected from her character. And in Untucked, we find out that it was actually Katya who I guess came up with most of the shtick, and so I guess she gave herself the one-liners that were in the skit. I mean, even still, I feel like you should take what you have and give it the best. Like the good example I can think of is last season when Darian Lake had that challenge where she was just a head. That's all she had to work with was a head, and that one line, or really like maybe those little few lines, it was a very small part, but she still sold it and won the challenge. So that's why I feel like whatever you're given, use it and run with it. But they kind of was like a little, They had some little funny moments, but this is the intro. As the host, they should be better. But, So, Miss Fame wins for Sexy, Sexy Drag Queen. And she had a very interesting speech. She was like, I want to thank Mexico for the tapeworm to keep my body snatched. I was like, that's an awful thing to say, but it's still funny. Pearl and Max come up, and of course, Pearl had the whole scene in the workroom with Rue, and we was just worried like, oh my god. But first of all, Pearl's look in that mermaid white dress was everything. She was giving me all of Marilyn Monroe with his hair, makeup. Somebody, I think Violet or Rupaul, somebody needs to tell Pearl how to properly contour breasts. Because her breasts, I mean, they look okay, but they look extremely fake. Like, at least Violet, and of course RuPaul has like that contour to where they look more realistic. Pearl, I guess she has like a breastplate, but she just never contours it right to where they look. She looks like, her breastplate makes her look like she got a bad boob job. But everything else was false. It's just those breasts don't always look the way they're supposed to. But anyway, they were worried, but they really went out there and did an amazing job. Ginger Minj was nominated for one of the awards that they were doing, and she did this whole neck thing. And I was just like, oh my god, that's brilliant. And of course, Max was playing it up in the background. They did really, really well, and I was so proud of them. Really, the categories were just kind of like, And most of the acceptance speeches, with the exception of Katya and Miss Fame, and I guess Violet. Violet she won for most shadiest queen, and she was like, you don't like me. You really don't like me. And I'm like, shit, you right, bitch. And Katya was like, the key to a swollen vagina is courage. Oh, you just never know what Katya is going to say. And I think that's what makes her very interesting. That's what keeps her humor up on the show. And I think that's why people like her so much. Let's see, what else? If you see me looking over here, I'm trying to have like my stuff written down so I don't forget like any of the main points. Okay, so now that was pretty much the show. And then the show ended with the lip sync. And the bottom two, I actually did predict. I knew Candy Ho was going to be there because Ginger Minj and Candy Ho were paired together, and all the one-liners came to Ginger Minj. Like, Candy Ho introduced, like, I'm so happy to be at the first Emperor Despy Awards. And Ginger Minj was like, yeah, I'm just here working off community service. And, it was so funny. It was just like, Candy was the setup for Ginger's one-liners, so I knew Candy Ho was going to be in the bottom two, but I wasn't sure at first who the other one was. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, they had a lot of critiques for Mrs. Kasha Davis, and lo and behold, it was Mrs. Kasha Davis versus Candy Ho, and I'm like, oh boy, oh boy. And at first, when the lip sync first started, it looked like Mrs. Kasha Davis was going to take it because Candy Ho was just kind of, standing there and not really doing too much. But midway through, Candy Ho just started bringing it. She got on her knees. She started giving you all that she had. And I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. And lo and behold, Candy Ho, Shantae, you stay. Mrs. Kasha Davis, sashay away. I was just like, oh my God. First of all, they're literally picking off all of the older queens. They already got rid of Tempest. They got rid of Jasmine. And now they got rid of Mrs. Kasha Davis. Ginger Minj is the only relatively older queen left. And I mean, Katya is kind of in the middle. Katya is like in her early 30s. So she's kind of in with the younger queens and can mix with the older queens as well. But as far as the whole old lady brigade that Ginger Minj had is pretty much gone. It's really just her now. Unless I'm forgetting someone. Is there another old queen left? I don't think so. I mean Kennedy, but Kennedy is kind of in the middle too. No, she's more on the older side because she was talking about the other bitches too. So it's just Ginger and Kennedy now. But so now we get to the Untucked. And everybody was praising Pearl for what she did, and she was, you know, talking about how she managed to come out her shell, how she thanked Rupaul and everything. And it was really nice to see. She really did have the personality and made her lines funny, and it was so good to see. But Mrs. Kasha Davis, when she came in, Mrs. Kasha Davis was not happy because Mrs. Kasha Davis, ooh, that's a lot to say. Maybe can I just call her Kasha? Was talking about in the workroom before how Pearl was so, you know, she tried out for 7 seasons. She kept mentioning that, and she feels like Pearl's not taking advantage of the opportunity, and she's upset about that. She's like, if you're gonna be like this, go home, bitch. And she was pissed that she was told that she wasn't trying in her in the show, and she was trying to blame it on like, well, Katya wrote all the lines, but I guess still I should have tried to wing it up the best way I could. And she was just throwing all this shade at Pearl, trying to be like, well, some people around here really aren't trying, and some people are just taking the opportunity for granted, and they just kept panning over to Pearl, and she just looking like, bitch, really? Oh, really? Oh, okay. So you mad. Which I guess I could understand. I really can't understand where Mrs. Kasha Davis is coming from. Because of how Pearl has kind of walked around and she just kind of left the workroom. And I guess after that kind of intense stare down with Rue, I probably would need a minute too, but I probably wouldn't have left. I probably would have just took a moment right there, but each person deals with it differently. Candy Ho came in and was like, she feels drained. She feels like, bitch, if I have to lip sync, oh well, if I have to go home, I won't be mad about it. Everybody, they're just always saying something. Nobody likes my dress or what I wear, this, that, and the fourth. And I'm just like, Candy, I don't know what more to say. I don't know what to tell you, really. But yet still somehow, some way, they're keeping you there for some reason. Because she keeps escaping by the skin of her teeth. Okay? First, well, I mean, I guess she did win fair and square. She deserved to be in the bottom the first episode. And she won that lip sync fair and square. So I can't be mad about that. But then it was like, okay, it should have been you in the bottom 2 with Pearl instead of Trixie. And no, Trixie went home. So people are putting that as a strike against you. Now you have Mrs. Kasha Davis and you. And I thought that she was just going to send you home because you had been in the bottom 2 already. Oh, excuse me. And I just thought, for a second, she was going to send you home. But no, she didn't. So you're still here, bitch. Even though you're kind of over it, RuPaul is still letting you slide by the skin of your teeth. I don't know why. Because they're not editing her to be of a presence on the show. So I just don't understand it. But she's drained and this, that, and the fourth. Oh. Ooh, what? Oh. Sorry about that. And Max throws his, I don't know, this is the first shade, but like the really most blatant shade he's ever thrown. Because Ginger Minj, they said, Michelle Visage called Ginger Minj's black dress like really cheap. And she was like, this dress costs $5,000, bitch. And then Max was looking at it like, She's like, had you not told me that, I would have thought you got it off the clearance rack at Cachet. So that was interesting to see. And then Violet opened up a little bit. You know, she's saying, you know, this episode, Fame was like the closest thing I've ever had to a friend, and blah, blah, blah. We're just like, girl, I mean, I hope you do kind of do like Trinity and really open up to where we like you a bit more. But the best part of this Untucked episode definitely was Ginger Minj got a message from her husband. I wasn't even sure she was married. I didn't really know that. But she broke down immediately, of course, and she said that, you know, it's hard to be away from him because she has such a hard life, you know, I guess with self-confidence issues based off the way she looked and her body type and things of that nature. She said that before she met him, you know, he was the first person and probably the only person to make her feel attractive and make her, you know, feel boosted up like she was somebody. And that's really like, that's really dope. Like, that's amazing that somebody who had that kind of life was able to find somebody who was able to look past what society calls beauty and finds beauty in that person. And that's like something that we all want to find. And I thought that was pretty amazing. And Miss Fame that just hit Miss Fame to the core. Okay? Because she just started to break down. And, you know, Miss Fame is married as well. She was just recently married before she came on the show. So she kind of related. But I mean, she just kept saying, oh, it's so relatable. I just understand. And I guess it's because she's married too. But I didn't think that Miss Fame grew up unattractive like Ginger did. But she was just like, oh, that's so amazing that you were able to find love. Like, oh my gosh. She was just so touched and just going crazy backstage. But it was really nice to see. Like I said, Miss Fame, this episode got a lot more likability towards her image, which was really good to see. But so they went back on, that was before they went back on stage and Mrs. Kasha Davis got eliminated. But that's pretty much the end of the show. And you know what? Before I go, I did look at to see like how much those little statues cost that, you know, the people who get eliminated, they get before they leave. And that thing is like, it could be signed or unsigned by RuPaul, but that thing is like almost $200. I was like, maybe later in life, but now $200 for a little statue. I was expecting maybe at the most $100 or $80, but $200. I love you, RuPaul, but not that much. But that's pretty much the episode, you guys. I don't think I missed anything. But thank you guys so much for watching this episode. And I'll see you guys. Ooh, why? Ooh. Sorry about that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
Like, share, subscribe.
Washington.